a lot of provinces up here in Canada, so maybe we could add a whole bunch of states if we annex Canada. I don't know if everybody would want to just be one gigantic state, although that would really change the complexion of the Senate, because I think there's a lot of Democrats up here, although Canada. Trudeau announced that he was going to be retiring, and that's great news for Canada. He's done a horrible job in the there, though. I think maybe it's 90-day period or so before it becomes effective, so he can still do some more damage, just like Biden is hanging around doing more damage in the United States. But when I was listening to Donald Trump's press conference earlier today that he gave over at Mar-a-Lago, again, he talked about making Canada a state. But when he spoke about Canada and our current relationship with Canada, he kept talking about how we're supporting Canada, we're defending Canada, and he said, look, we have a huge trade deficit with Canada, as if somehow that's harming the United States. It's actually helping the United States. It's unfortunate that we're not productive enough to get by without all those Canadian products. But Donald Trump specifically said, we don't need any Canadian cars. We don't need any Canadian timber. Well, of course we do. I mean, we build houses, we drive cars. I mean, if we didn't have access to Canadian lumber or Canadian cars or any of the other things that we import from Canada, America imports a lot of stuff from Canada, what does Donald Trump think would happen to the price of all that stuff? It would go way up. How we don't need any of the Canadian products. Said the same thing about Europe, So we have a huge trade deficit with Europe. We don't need those products either. Of course we do. I mean, from Europe, we're buying stuff from Canada because we don't make it. That's why we're doing that. If we could make the stuff more efficiently, then we'd be doing it. The reason we're not doing it is because we can't. Now, we could, but that would require a lot of changes to the underlying structure of the economy, and it's going to have to start with the regulation, taxation, government spending, monetary policy. But none of those changes are likely to be implemented. But we do need all these products. But at the same time, he was criticizing Canada and Europe, saying we don't need any of their stuff. He was also talking about the huge inflation problem that he's inheriting from Joe Biden, as if, again, he had no role in creating the problem, which, of course, he did. As I've explained on this podcast, too, the big increase in the CPI and the worst year of CPI measured inflation was 2021, the very first year that Biden was in office. But that big jump started in the last few months of the Trump presidency. But of course, the policies that led to it began earlier in the Trump presidency. So it's not like he's but at the same time that he's saying we don't need any of these Canadian products, we don't need any of these European products, he's complaining to make it even higher is to deprive the United States of all these products, because that would reduce the supply of goods for Americans to buy. And basic economics, you reduce the supply, you get a big increase in the price. And that's exactly what would happen. He also talked, about why he wants to, we want to take over Greenland, the Panama Canal. And he implied that we might even try to seize these, territories with military force. But he said, look, if not that, it's going to be economic pressure. He said, we'll sanction or we'll tariff Denmark if they don't want to give us Greenland or something like that. But again, he can't tariff Denmark. Denmark doesn't pay any tariffs. He just tariffs Americans who want to buy Danish products, making those products more expensive. So he wants to add to the inflationary problem. But, at the same time that Donald Trump was talking about the inflation problem that he's inheriting from Biden, he also talked about the interest rate problem. He said interest rates are too high. We need lower inflation and we need lower interest rates, without recognizing that higher interest rates. But of course, the higher interest rates are going to do nothing unless we also get meaningful cuts in government spending. And so far, everything that the government has been spend more money. That's all they're doing. All Congress has approved since Trump was elected was more government spending and bigger deficits. Meanwhile, Joe Biden just took, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of acres on the ocean offshore and just permanently banned offshore drilling in those waters, making it a lot more difficult for, drill, baby, drill. By the way, oil prices are now above $74 a barrel. They've been consistently rising over the past several weeks, as are a lot of other commodity prices. This is an amazing thing. And I posted this chart on X. But if you look at the CRB index, commodity prices, today it's at a 14-year high, 14 years. And in the last 7 months, we're up over 28% in commodity prices. Now, how can the Federal Reserve prices are up 28% in 7 months, and that's in dollars. They're up more in euros. They're up more in Canadian dollars. Dollar's been strong. So commodity prices are surging all over the world, right? In Europe, they're up over 30%. Christine Lagarde had a Twitter or an X post. She had a little video of herself. She's head of the ECB. And she greeted everybody by saying, 2025 is going to be a great year. This is the year inflation is coming back down to 2%. I mean, what is she smoking? It's first of all, it's about 3% now, but it's headed in the other direction. Prices are surging all around the world. Yes, we had a pullback in commodity prices as the Fed was initially tightening, but that's reversed. And again, we've had strong commodity prices, even with a strong dollar. So imagine how much stronger they're going to be when the dollar weakens, which eventually it is going to turn down. And, this is despite oil. We're at a 14-year high. So oil has been a lot higher than $74 a barrel in the last 14 years. It's been well above 100. So oil is one of the bright spots in this dark cloud here of prices. Other commodity prices. Look at coffee prices, right? Look at sugar. Look at cocoa, right? And other grains are starting to move. Look at soybeans. Look at corn. All these food items. Everything is surging in price. At the same time, the Fed and the ECB, they're all saying, hey, we've won the inflation battle. We just want to make extra sure that we're down to 2%. They're not even close. And the bond market is starting to sniff this out. The yield on a 30-year U.S. Treasury today rose above 4.9%. We're at 4.92%. The yield on a 10-year is 4.69. So these are the highest yields that we've had since the Fed started cutting rates. In fact, you have to go back even further than that. But again, this does not surprise me. This is exactly what I was saying was going to happen even before the Fed started cutting. But I said that when the Fed did cut, that would be market ended in 2020, with the COVID, blow off top in bonds and bottom in yields. But we are moving substantially higher. Mortgage rates now are back above 7% and rising. They're going to be above 8% pretty soon for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. But they're back above 7. Credit card rates are 25%. They're going to keep going up. Now, we got more bad news. I mean, forget about the fact that the mainstream media is ignoring this boom in commodity prices. I mean, which is completely inconsistent with the story the Fed is trying to sell. How can they be telling us that inflation is going to come down when prices are soaring? And these commodities, these are input costs. So they're going to bleed in to producer prices and consumer prices, right? They're going to move first.